Welcome to another Splatoon 2 video on the channel. Last week at GDC, Nagame, the lead producer behind Splatoon and Splatoon 2, did a couple of interviews with Game Informer and GameSpot. I will leave a link to both interviews in the description, but pretty much in both those interviews we learned more about the lore behind Splatoon 2 and Splatoon. So what I thought we'll do in this video is round up all of the details that we learned from those interviews. Just a little warning before this video does go on, I have had a cold recently, so my voice, it might sound a little bit different than normal, but let's just get on with this video. So GameSpot asked, we have the Inklings, we have the Octo expansion coming up, will we see anything more about the salmon? And this is how Nagame answered that question. We think of the Inklings and Octolings as different, but they're not so different as to prevent them from becoming friends. That's something we can imagine, but the Salmonids from Salmon Run are pretty different, so we're not sure that they'll ever be able to join Inkling society. This is a world where humanity has come to ruin and 10,000 years have passed. That said, we've envisioned the creatures of the world as having some of the same impulses that they've always had. In Japan, we think of squids and octopi as being maybe natural enemies is too strong, but they compete against each other. They use each other as food sometimes, and we have continued these thoughts as we made our world. Salmon exist in a kind of different world. They behave in a different way than squids and octopi, so we're not sure we see a future where they are able to join this type of society. That's not to say that we consider the Salmonids to be complete barbarians. It's not that the squid are the forces of good and the Salmonids are the forces of evil. It's more that the squids have their own society and the Salmonids have their own different society. So that is a really interesting look at the lore behind Splatoon. Do Pearl and Marina know they are in a video game? Is the next question that was asked to Nagame, and this is definitely a common question amongst the community ever since the last Splatfest, where in the dialogue we saw Marina say that free will is a lie, and this is how Nagame answered that question. That's a really difficult question. I think that if you play Splatfest, you will occasionally see them say things that may put their position somewhere in the middle of Splatoon and our world in the references that they are making. They also fulfill this role of discussing what stages are upcoming and the news, but when it comes to Splatfest, we wanted to make the off-the-hook characters something that's a bit closer to reality, as Splatfest are events that expand beyond the boundaries of the game and occasionally tie elements of our world into Splatoon. So it might just be that during those moments of Splatfest they may have an occasional inkling that they are characters in the world of a video game. So pretty much he is saying that they are self-aware when it does come to Splatfest. When Splatfest comes around, they are self-aware. They are aware that they are in a video game, and that is just really creepy but cool to think about at the same time. When it comes to the Splatfest, there is this Japanese idea of a Matsuri, which is a Japanese style festival. In Japan, those Matsuri festivals usually have some kind of female shaman who is kind of the leader of the festival in Japanese tradition. These characters, whether it's Kali, Marie or Pearl Marina, take on those roles in the Splatfest as well. It might just be that in these special events that are Splatfest, the characters leading the Splatfest may come into contact with consciousness greater than their own. It might just be that they're speaking words that aren't even their own, and that is just really cool, really creepy as well. Let's round up the other lore details now. So Bisque is working at Shella Fresh. He is a musician, but unfortunately his musical career isn't that successful, so he has to work at Shella Fresh to pay the bills. I would love to see moving forward, like in the next game, Bisque actually realise his dreams of becoming a musician, and you actually see him in a band creating new music for a new game. I would love to see that happen. Does Bisque get good deals or an employee discount for working there? The Nagami says judging from the number of shoes he's got on, he probably does have a store or staff discount. Nagami says that there isn't a name for the transformation state between kid and squid. When Inklings turn into a squid and swim through ink, are they becoming one with the liquid, or are they sinking beneath the surface of the ground? And this is how Nagami answered that question. In my mind, they're becoming a liquid. They sort of change to become something long and thin that allows them to slip through the ink at great speed. I guess it's something a little closer to jellyfish, where they can become really flat and stretched out, still holding their shape as they're slipping through the ink. In my mind, it's not that they dissolve completely into the ink, but they still hold sort of a shape and know, okay, I'm still a squid, as they are swimming along. Have the Inklings tried to do research to allow them to adapt to be able to touch water? Nagami says, I don't think that the Inklings themselves are probably doing that research. They kind of live in the now, and they're creatures that sort of live for fun, so they just kind of accept that water doesn't go well with them. Do the Inklings know that at one point squids could go in water? So this is how Nagami answered that question. So this is just one of my own theories I have. This is pretty funny, seeing as he is the director. You would think that his theories would be the theories in the actual game, but apparently not. These Inklings have gone through a lot to evolve from the squids that we know to the creatures that they've become in this world. In that evolution, one of their characteristics is that they can change their forms freely. But again, one of my theories is that one of the downsides to being able to freely change their form is that their outer membrane is thin and very permeable. So when it comes into contact with another liquid surface like water, the ink within them will just sort of bleed out, and that may be the cause of the problem. For the Inklings, in the process of their evolution, which has made them better in some ways, one of the downsides of that is that they've lost the ability to swim around in water. That's just something that they've had to toss aside in their evolution. The Salmonids in a different way have evolved, but for some reason they are still able to enter water and swim around. Are the creatures of Splatoon's universe much bigger now than they were when they weren't evolved, or has the world been scaled down to their size? This is something that I've not even thought that much about, but I suppose that it's probably something a bit in the middle, that the scale of the world may have changed over time, but also in their evolution these creatures have changed a bit in scale as well. We may think that an Inkling stands this tall, but unless we do further research we may never get the answer to that. And that sort of goes against what we learned about in the Splatoon art book, where I do believe we learned that Inklings are around about 5 foot tall. So yeah, it is a little bit, you know, contradicting what that art book had to say. But that is pretty much all of the lore details that we got from the GameSpot and Game Informer interviews. I guess the most interesting detail is that I guess Nagami has confirmed that during Splatfest, Pearl and Marina, they are self-aware, they are aware that they are in a video game. So that is the big detail that has come from this interview. I guess we already learned that detail before. I guess we could already guess that from the dialogue that we got in the last Splatfest, but I guess it's nice how the producer has confirmed it nonetheless. But that is it for this video. My voice is going, so I must apologise about that. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.